The Labour Inspectorate is calling on anyone concerned about the employment situation of themselves or someone they know to call its contact line. Its National Manager, Stuart Lumsden, says there is currently a particular focus on liquor retailers, where employees work long hours and not all of them are being paid minimum wage and are not receiving holiday pay entitlements. Now, this comes after Shalani Limited, which owns liquor stores, including a Bottle and a dairy in Auckland, was ordered to pay nearly $200,000 in penalties and unpaid wages. An investigation found that 7 migrant workers did not receive the minimum wage or holiday pay. The Secretary of the Migrant Workers Association, Anu Kaloti, joins me now. Good evening, Anu. 200,000 almost in penalties and unpaid wages. Does that send a strong enough message to employers?
Kia ora, Lisa. Unfortunately, we've seen these kinds of cases time and time again. And no matter how high the penalties and the fines are, these people keep reoffending, and especially in the bottle stores and the liquor industry, we've recently seen quite a rise in cases of exploitation. Unfortunately, I think the fines and the penalties are not a deterrent big enough. As we all know, that the root cause of this exploitation seems to be where the visas, the worker's visa is actually attached to the employer. So that's where the whole thing starts. So we've been, for a number of years now, calling for the visas to be detached and to be opened up. So, we're not saying that allow the workers to stay here indefinitely. That just depends on case by case and whether they're eligible or whether they qualify or not. But the practice of tying the visas to a particular employer is where the exploitation starts. So we've been calling for a stop to that.
So do you think the prospect of losing a liquor licence, you say it's a particular problem with these bottle stores, one suggestion is that you should lose your liquor licence if you breach labour laws. Do you think that would help?
It could possibly help in the short term, but that just means that particular person or business owner cannot open another bottle store, but is there anything to stop them opening businesses in another industry? So, where they can go and just repeat the exploitation that they've been doing. So, but by no means it would be a welcome step, but I don't think that would go far enough to address the issue.
Some of the feedback we've had here on the program is the suggestion that a number of these businesses are owned by migrants and that they are exploiting other migrants. Is that your experience?
Sadly, yes. Most of the cases that come our way, that seems to be the story, that where migrants who are more settled or have been in New Zealand longer tend to exploit more recent migrants. So unfortunately, that is the case.
What do you make of that, Anu? What do you make of that?
It's quite shocking. That just tells me clear lack of compassion and empathy. If somebody who's started out as a migrant themselves and put in the hard yards, if anything, they should be able to empathise with migrants who've recently arrived here, but for some reason we see the complete reverse here. And also I think these businesses who exploit, the employers who exploit, they know that that they've got a model that is successful for them, and they know that they can get away with it for as long as they can. And the fines and especially the monetary fines, they don't seem to mind paying that, because then, from another revenue that they will generate that money again through exploitation, they'll reoffend. So the fines don't seem to bother them at all. So maybe there needs to be more of, name and shame. Maybe that will work more than monetary fines.
Is there enough resource going into cracking down on these businesses? Is the Labour Inspectorate resourced well enough to deal with this?
While we've had an increase in the number of labour inspectors in the last year or so. I think we still need more. We see sometimes from Migrant Workers Association, we have to refer cases to the Labour Inspectorate for whatever reasons, and the wait can be anything from 6 months upwards. So, in situations where the worker is already out of a job and has no source of income, and expecting them to wait for another 6 months without any income, and also a lot of the times their immigration situation is such that they can't actually lawfully stay in the country for that long so that they can tie up loose ends and they can get justice. So definitely more resource would help, and more resource as soon as possible, not in 3 years' time or 2 years' time. Things have improved, but still there's a long way to go in terms of resourcing the Labour Inspectorate and dealing with the issues in a timely manner.
Just before we go, Anu, this case with Shalani Limited, do you think that is the tip of the iceberg?
Yes. We've said that a few times in the recent past, that this is the tip of the iceberg. I know there's a crackdown with the bottle stores at the moment, and in the last 6 months to a year, majority of the cases that have come our way have also been in the same industry. So yes, this is the tip of the iceberg, and it's not limited to just Bottle-O. We've seen it across other big brand names as well. Like recently we've seen the Super Liquor, and we've dealt with some other brand names too. So it is an industry-wide phenomena that does need to be taken care of really on an urgent basis.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. That is Anu Kaloti, who is the Secretary of the Migrant Workers Association.